So welcome to another garden vlog, and we've been loading up some of these jaboticabas that haven't been doing good in pots. And already this morning we planted 4 out in kind of like a wetlands area that is not wetlands on one. Not sure if I'm calling it wetlands on 2 or 3. We got like 3 or 4 wetlands areas that are separated from higher areas, and kind of in that totem pole under oak tree area. So we planted one of the smaller ones right by kind of like a French drain, so if it survives and it sends some roots down a little bit, 10-12 inches, it'll be able to tap into that water access pretty good. But these are all in shady areas. I put one where I put that Swiss cheese plant, in a couple videos ago. I did a Swiss cheese plant on the south side of an oak tree, which some people said, they'll survive there, even though they're tropical. And of course I didn't put it in the south side of the oak tree, but I found a place on the west side. Still got a lot of shade, probably a lot of protection, because there's just so many trees and so much shade there. But these are all pretty wet areas on our property. That's why I built that big, totem bed, to raise it up really high for those citrus trees. Oh boy, more dark clouds out there. Anyway, sorry about that. UPS came up and delivered a package. But back to the jaboticabas we put in the ground here. So I did another one in a different oak tree. And surprisingly, between these big giant roots, they had some pretty easy to dig areas, so that wasn't too bad. Then we put one in like some swamp magnolias or whatever they are. Pretty hard to dig there, but not terrible. And then we did one where 2 cypress trees have fallen, and we kind of dug in that composting cypress dead tree that got hit by lightning 30 plus years ago. And it still hasn't broken down all the way. The tree is still like 40-50 foot, angled, just leaning on other trees. But the little bit of composting that has happened in that base, red maples and all kinds of root systems have come up in there and made it a little bit hard to dig. We planted stuff in there, seeds or something, and even a squash, I think, just a few months ago, and it did not make it. So we tried our best to dig as much as possible to try to make it, to densify that area where it'll hopefully keep the roots moist enough to take off. But this is just one big experiment, I guess. Can't really give away these plants, these jaboticabas that are doing so poorly like a year later. So we're trying to save them by putting them in the ground, hoping that they get happy. I'm probably starting to sound like a broken record now, saying the same thing. We spent a lot of money, almost $80 on those seeds for the red hybrids and the sabaras or sabaras, and most of them just flopped. A decent amount of them sprouted, probably around 60%. And I don't know what happened to the ones we put in the ground. I haven't seen any sign of life. They could be 1 or 5 or 10 somewhere that we won't spot for, years and years. Or maybe they sprouted and they died on that first winter. Who knows? But a decent amount sprouted in the pots. They just didn't do good, didn't do well. A few of them did. There's 2 or 3 that look really good. And ones that were small were sort of green and looking okay, even though they weren't growing, but they slowly yellowed and they slowly had dieback, or just looked horrible. It's like another mulberry I'm trying to root from that last order is starting to droop. So we're going to put this in this big old mulberry ICU area here. It's growing all the time, unfortunately. I don't know if I planted any plants versus seeds in wetlands on one. Maybe I have and forgot about it. Maybe I even put it on one of our videos, but let's put a few in wetlands on one. Shady areas that have some protection from sun and hopefully winters, and see what happens. Right here with the black Suriname cherry that we have growing, and I really don't like the idea of densely planting it so close together, but look at this. There's so many disturbed areas in this magic soil area. The squirrels just constantly dig up stuff, so putting it closer, maybe put some logs or something around it later, will hopefully give it some protection. Check this out. The earthworm activity here is like amazing. But there it is. Oh, watered in. Got the tag on it. I threw some of these big old dried mushroom logs around it, and hopefully that'll give it some protection. This area here is also where we had a very small stink water bucket where we were doing those stink water logs to experiment with, you know, sticks, logs, branches, that were dead, absorbing those nutrients and kind of feeding, various soils and stuff. And several times the bucket got knocked over, and we had like the most amazing growth of black nightshade or, garden huckleberry here ever. They grew 5-6 foot where they normally stay, 2 or 3 foot. So we know these stink water buckets do have nutrients, and when we feed things intentionally, you may not see that growth. Maybe certain types of plants like it, certain type of plants may not show anything, but it's obvious to me that some of the plants do benefit very greatly from doing these stink water buckets. Right, so we put a red hybrid right here where all these ginger and arrowroot and some of our taro, and we have our lemon cattleya guava and a whole grove of elderberries here on wetlands zone 1. So this isn't a super wet area. We dug and put stuff here that raised the ground up a little bit, but anyway, it's still wetlands zone 1 because just a few feet that way it's a wet area. This is just a little more sand and stuff. Well, we are in day 2 of this video, and it looks like it's raining again, and I have not found a good way to get out and plant today. How long is this going to be? How many days, I should say, is this video going to be? Maybe a few minutes later, it is raining harder. Third day on this video. It just rained out yesterday and couldn't find time, but I loaded up all of the jaboticabas that look kind of bad here, and hopefully by the end of this video we'll have all these guys planted out. Operation Save a Jaboticaba here. So I got 5 holdbacks here that and we're going to keep an eye on these guys. If they start going south, we'll plant them in the ground as well. And, this one doesn't look the best. This one looks okay. These 3 here look pretty good. And then I got the 2 potentially the best ones that haven't been, included in these guys here. You've seen in my previous video that we're probably going to donate or something to the local garden community. Maybe they'll raffle it off. Those are right here. That's the best looking sabara, and this was the best looking and biggest red hybrid jaboticaba. Well, I'm in the back forested area here, and my Brazos bell avocado did shoot out new growth a few weeks ago after I thought it was toast, and now it's, despite all the rain and everything, looks like it's dying. But yet down there on the rootstock, it looks like it's living. So we may just have a rootstock here, and we might have to graft something later if this rootstock survives. All the rain we've had lately has given all these avocados, white zapotes, or whatever that we've disturbed the roots and put in the ground a chance to potentially snap out of it, you know. And the ones that look like they were pretty much dead still look dead. But there are a few that just lost leaves, like that guy there, but still got a nice green trunk. So that guy may actually grow some new leaves. And we got another one that I just looked at. Same thing with it. You know, this guy doesn't look the best. It looks like it's been stressed, but it's very perked up. So that's a good sign, I believe. When those leaves and everything stands up, perks up, that means it's at least getting something it needs for the time being. Pretty much all the little jaboticabas I planted under all these pine trees, what is there, 1, 2, 3, 4 little guys, are perked up. They still look good. They look like they haven't stressed out a bit being in the ground so far. White zapote still perked up, still looking good. Might have a little bit of bug damage, but there's that jaboticaba right under there looking good. So this is the avocado that I just planted a few days ago in the sweet gum grove here, right under, you know, this was a sweet gum tree or two that just died, and it kind of rotted and created its own little soil there, and it's under active sweet gum roots and red maple roots and probably greenbrier, wild muscadines, and all kinds of stuff. So I'm kind of surprised it's still perked up, but you know, hopefully long term this will be another success. All over the ground here we got our little magnolia pods here, and they, you know, we sprout some, or they sprout on their own all over the place every year, a few of them. So here's a pod turning kind of pink, red, right on the tree. This is that avocado we planted in that, you know, post-mycorrhizal bed where we tried to save that citrus tree, but I think we disturbed the roots too much or something on it, because it was looking bad almost immediately. When those avocados start getting black on the actual trunk, it seems like they're on their way out, and there's not much you can do to save it. Go ahead and briefly look at this one under this camphor tree here. And look how much better it looks. Looks like it's probably already grown taller. Look at there. Possibly new leaf growth there. Yeah, it might have grown an inch or two. I briefly walked around a few other places, but it's early in the morning. Natalie, I guess, wants her coffee, and the kids just come out screaming, "Daddy, coffee's done." But, you know, most of the avocados are looking pretty good. Most of the white zapotes are looking pretty good. You know, the chaya, everything we recently planted in that wetland zone 1 area, you know, seems to be looking pretty good. So most of the avocados, they transplanted pretty well. You know, one of them obviously didn't. 1 or 2 is probably going to lose all their leaves or have lost them, but still has green trunks on them. So hopefully that's a good sign. But with it being rainy, you know, and with summer not even 100% here yet, you know, with hotter weather coming, can they survive the summer? Can their roots, without those mycorrhizal raised beds, you know, survive the potential bacterial root rot? With this wet area, will they potentially survive any fungal issues with all the rain and the wet and the humidity? And then if that's not enough, will they survive the winter if they can go through all that, you know? As I kind of mentioned before, if these guys do well, I will probably do post-mycorrhizal beds around them, just small, and just work my way up over time, especially in areas that don't seem to have the earthworm and insect activity, you know, because of the super acidic soil in certain areas of my yard. One of our most neglected pears. Oh my God, there's the kids hauling for me. As I was saying, our kefir pear just got a major load of freaking Virginia creepers, and it was full of fruit, and we had a bad storm the other night, and it snapped the trunk. Still attached, but we need to just cut it off. And what I've noticed is some of the pears are just falling off when I just touch them. So not all of them, but a few are just falling off right in my hand. So I'm gonna try to get some of these Virginia creepers out, and don't know if I'm gonna cut it yet, but we'll cut it and get it ready. All right, time to pick up these pears and take them to Grammy. Maybe she'll make a pie or some preserves or something for us.
A peel pie. Oh, peel.
That cut into our video time here. There's a bunch of pear clippings from the machete and a lot of Virginia creeper. We pulled probably about 14 to 16 pounds of pears out, and we took them to my mom's house, and she said she's going to try to make some pear pies with them. So hopefully we'll get that on a picture or video later if that happens. So back to the jaboticaba, Operation Jaboticaba Rescue. Got 11 here we need to plant. So we put a red hybrid jaboticaba right by one of these avocados, or these crepe myrtles, elderberries, gingers, Turk's cap hibiscus, and my giant Fuyu persimilar, kind of in a 10-12 foot area. And there it is. So we're back in this sweet gum area, and here's one that's dying and rotting. As I started to dig the dirt, you see some of that white there. That's probably some kind of fungal, growth on the roots. I'm not going to say mycorrhizal fungal activity, but some sort of potential, hopefully good fungal activity here. So maybe that's a sign that we will get something here, even if the acidity is too high for earthworms. Let's put a jaboticaba right here, and that's only maybe 5 foot away from where we planted that avocado the other day under the sweet gums. There we go. Hopefully some of those fungal activity will be symbiotic fungal activity that is hopefully compatible with the jaboticabas. But sometimes the symbiosis is, I think, attached to certain types of plants, so you never know. Back almost in the furthest back area, the forest where our property meets the forest, and we had this area here that's super moist. This was a maple tree that fell years ago, and it's raised up quite a bit from these dips on the property. And I just seen a freaking earthworm here for the first time in this acidic property. That's possibly because it was raised up so high, and it was just a big giant maple tree that kind of created the atmosphere, to have earthworms above the acidic soil line. So I dug around that area more, and I didn't see any more worms, and I think that it's only that top inch layer or so of mostly composted maple tree above the soil line that seem to have the earthworm or earthworms or whatever. So having a raised bed around these guys, like we're trying to do on so many levels, like mycorrhizal beds, post-mycorrhizal beds, seem to be possibly one of the only options to keep earthworms in the area. My goodness, there's another one right there. Can we get it on camera, one-handed? So there's another one. So as you can see, that brown material is the tree, and that gray material, they don't seem to be going down into that or the original soil. We decided to put one there, and I think I've seen a couple insects as well in this little wood area. So this could be a nice spot to start working on. That's 3 down, and we got 8 more to go. Can we do the rest of them before we have to shut this video off and start another vlog in the morning or whenever? Another one goes in pretty much about 3 foot from the fence line, the property line here in the forested area. And another one goes in. This guy's got definitely a dense roots, fern roots all over the place. So they're not the easiest things to dig around, but they also have big tree roots as well. A lot of competition. And another one in, and I had 2 tags for that. One said Sabara, one said red hybrid. So I just took the tags away. Same area here. I already have the kids hauling for me, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get these last 5 in the ground. Let's hope for the best. So many areas in that area, so many places where I put my shovel were too hard. So I had to skip 30, 40 feet. Found a nice soft area here. And I really don't think I'm going to have a place for the last 4 in this area. I'm going to have to just see what I can do, unless I just plant them a little bit more densely. Well, I just double planted. There's one not looking so good. So these are red hybrids, and I put it right here basically at the corner by my KSU Atwood pawpaw here. 2 sabaras left, I believe. And if I sound like I've been running a marathon, I definitely have, because I know the kids have been hollering and screaming. Probably just about time for me to get in the shower, get food on, get the nighttime routine stuff going. Whew. I think you guys are probably tired of seeing me say, okay, here's a jaboticaba here, here's a jaboticaba here. I'm planting 2 in the ground. Oh, these guys look so bad. Here's the story. This is why we're not donating these bad looking ones. We have a few that look good that we can donate, yada yada. So these bad ones are just going in the ground. We're gonna, our most expensive seed or seedling experiment yet, I would say. So we double planted the sabaras right there. Whew, and now we need to water them probably before we get in there. I hate feeling rushed, but this is what it's like to have a family. So that's it. Got the water bucket there, and I just finished watering them. 11 jaboticabas today. Several other jaboticabas over the last week or 2. Seeds put out that we haven't seen any sign of. Whether or not there could be something alive from those seeds, probably not. That's it. You know, we went from a drought to quite a bit of rain, sometimes 1 and 1.5, maybe 2 inches in a day sometimes. And these guys are all in shady areas, they're all in wetter zones. So hopefully these guys will be happy, and if they can just survive the wintertime, and if the soil, you know, the pH and everything just makes them happy, gets them some root growth, because most of those guys didn't have much roots. They might have had a long stem or a single root, but they didn't have a lot of those little hair roots and stuff that you would kind of expect for a lot of plants that were, what are they, a year old now? I'm not quite sure, but I am tired, sweaty, and it's time for a shower. So we're going to end this vlog here. Take care, guys.